before being a subgenre of Japanese period dramas, or jidaigeki, before the stage plays, before the mangas, before the legends. The samurai were armed knights in service of their provincial lord, or daimyo. Their title means servant or retainer. Early on, their service was repaid with land that the samurai did not own, and the stipend measured in koku, a quantity of rice. Sons would eventually replace their fathers and continue the family's allegiance to the clan. At the beginning of the Kamakura era, the shogunate, the military government, was formally established. The constant fighting between daimyos during the medieval years, notably the Sengoku era, increased the need for more warriors for battle. Many clans earned their reputations during these times. The way of the samurai markedly changed during the Tokugawa era, also known as the Edo period, because it was a time of relative peace. It was also an era known for the shogun's very restrictive and isolationist policies, in order to maintain the status quo and to prevent influence from outside sources. Christianity was prohibited, and trading was limited to the Chinese, the Vietnamese, and the Dutch. Due to the lack of armed conflicts, many samurai were forced to focus their knowledge into teaching at martial arts schools or to work as bureaucrats. Many clans were disbanded, and so retainers were discharged and became Ronin, which means man of the wave. Masterless samurai, wandering the land, often finding mercenary or criminal work. With their former high societal standing being but a memory, these men were seen as stray dogs, lower than the lowest class. The once proud and near mythic world of the samurai came to an end when the last shogun resigned at the end of 1867, with the start of the Meiji period. The wearing of the two swords, the physical identifier of a samurai other than the top knot, which had only been reserved to samurai in the past, became illegal. Hundreds of years of history, battles, and accounts were prime creative breeding ground for chambara, the realistic depiction of sword fighting. Known real-life stories, like that of the 47 Ronin or Musashi Miyamoto, have been told and retold countless times, making their subject matter the stuff of legend and transcending beyond kabuki to the big screen. Like the Western, the samurai genre was not invented by its filmmakers, but inherited from its nation's history. Japan's history and identity are intrinsically linked to the samurai genre. Jidaigeki were often made not only to tell a story, entertain, or revisit the past, but to tackle important issues relevant to the era. Whether it was while evading censorship in the pre-war 1930s, during the golden age of samurai films in the 50s and 60s, or beyond. Welcome to the Screened Film Club. I'm your curator Sergio, and in today's video, we will explore the samurai genre in film while focusing on two elements essential to the genre, such as the Swordsman and Bushido, as well as how sometimes these often romanticized aspects can serve as an indictment on the feudal system and by extension on society. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. And today's video is kindly sponsored by Surfshark, but more on that midway. The samurai aesthetic is very attractive. We've seen it inspire filmmakers for decades. At the center of it, we have the swordsman. He, for the most part, is as emblematic as the gunslinger is to the Western. Whether the protagonist is a lone Ronin like Sanjuro, walking into a town overrun by two rival gangs, or a group of warriors assembled to assassinate the shogun's half-brother, or even a father reluctant to unsheath his sword to carry out his lord's will, the people at the center of the plot are bound to their weapon. It was necessary for the samurai who carried two swords, the longer one for attack and defense, and the shorter one for self-destruction when necessary, to train himself with the utmost zeal in the art of swordsmanship. He could never be separated from the weapon which was the supreme symbol of his dignity and honor. The sword is the soul of the samurai, therefore in order to exist, one element cannot be without the other. A samurai's life and survival depended on the efficacy of his sword. It was a tool in the service of the retainer's lord, meant to both protect the clan and to take a life, the enemy's or their own. It becomes part of the swordsman's identity, and so cinematically, the sword and how it's used can reveal the character and the context of the wielder. Most samurai films are set in the Tokugawa era, usually because of the marked rigidity in the class system and the exploration of the dying samurai way of life. But in the case of Seven Samurai, the setting is the Sengoku era. There's a bit more fluidity within the social structure. This is seen in the case of Kikuchiyo. Unlike the other swordsmen he accompanies to defend a small village from bandits, he was never a samurai. He stole his name and his sword. Even his weapon stands out because it's not one of the two usually worn by a samurai. It's an odachi. It couldn't be worn due to its size, nor could it be quickly unsheathed. It had to be carried. It was used to bring down horses with their riders. Its bulky and unrefined qualities fit Kikuchiyo's boisterous personality. He doesn't act the way a samurai should, he doesn't look like one. But that doesn't stop him from fighting the bandits and laying down his life the way a samurai would. His sword, although unconventional, shows us that one doesn't need to be a samurai in name to exemplify their virtues. On the other side of the morality coin, we have Ryunosuke Tsuke from the Sword of Doom. He starts off as a samurai whose sword has been tainted by the blood of innocence. His eyes are as cold and emotionless as his blade is sharp. Ryunosuke's odd style lowers his victim's guard and draws them in right before he strikes them down in one slash. It helps him gain notoriety among the group he joins, the Shinsengumi, a type of Tokugawa-era government police, and adds more people to his body count. His once unshakable confidence is taken aback when his group fails to assassinate Toranosuke Shimada, another master swordsman. Shimada's words haunt him, as do the faces of his victims. The sword is the soul. Study the soul to know the sword. Evil mind, evil sword. Ryunosuke's sword's bloodlust is his own, leading him to clash, cut, and strike until one of them gives out. His sword illustrates the pride and ruthlessness a samurai could relent to. In The Twilight Samurai, Seibei Iguchi, the very lowly ranked samurai, duels his childhood friend's ex-husband and humiliates him using a wooden sword. Soon the word spreads, and the clan leader sends him to execute a retainer that refuses to obey orders. The reason being that the other samurais hold up inside his house, making the use of a longsword ineffective, leaving the short sword as the weapon of choice. Seibei is known to have trained to fight with the short sword, making him the right man for the job. Other than practicality in this specific duel, Seibei's fighting style is dictated by necessity. We learn that he sold his longsword in order to help pay for his wife's funeral, pawning away what little prestige he had left in the eyes of the samurai, leaving him with a weapon that symbolizes his own doom. But true to himself, Seibei is a man more preoccupied by his family's happiness, even at the detriment of his own success. A success he might have enjoyed if he had been able to hold on just a few more years once the shogunate fell. His sword is an arrow pointing at Seibei's own ending, as well as that of the samurai.
当家ご意向は申すに及ばず、ひいては因縁浅からぬ徳川家、天下指導のためかと心得ます。
Tied to the swordsman's prowess with his weapon is a set of rules, guidelines that inform his view on life, death, duty, honor, and family. It influences his choices on and off the field of battle. Bushido, the way of the warrior. A complex code that evolved throughout the years and was adapted to the different eras, driving the samurai to both live a life of reflection and of action. The idea most vital and essential to the samurai is that of death, which he ought to have before his mind day and night and day, from the dawn of the first day of the year till the last minute of the last day of it. When this notion takes firm hold of you, you are able to discharge your duties to their fullest extent. You will consider every day of your life your last and dedicate it to the fulfillment of your obligations. The tale of the 47 Ronin has been used as an example of warriors following their code, no matter the consequences. Chushingura, as it's known when fictionalized from kabuki to cinema, explores the extent at which retainers would go to in loyalty to their lord. As a quick summary, the daimyo Naganori Asano was forced to commit seppuku, a form of ritual suicide where the samurai disembowels himself, after he was goaded into assaulting a court official, Yoshinaka Kira. Asano's lands were taken and his house disbanded, making his retainers Ronin. 47 of Asano's men devised a plan to kill Kira, as revenge for their lord's death. They eventually succeeded. Even though they defied the shogun's law, it couldn't be said that the Ronin didn't act honorably. They fought valiantly and avenged their former master. So instead of being sentenced to death like criminals, they were allowed to die by committing ritual suicide. This story has been told and adapted countless times, often as a way to rally the population for war. Following the end of the isolationism of the Tokugawa era, Japan became militarized as a way to become stronger and fight off colonization by the West. People were compelled to adopt samurai ethics. Loyalty to one's master was replaced by loyalty to the nation and one's company. After their defeat in the Second World War, during the American occupation, it was forbidden to show the portrayal of the 47 Ronin because of its connection to Japanese nationalism. This was followed by a rejection of samurai values and a need to renew their identity as a country. With Seven Samurai, Kurosawa breathed new life into the samurai genre that hadn't been often explored on the big screen during the war. He attempted to show that it is beneficial to adhere to the positive values of Bushido, such as loyalty, honor, sacrifice, as exemplified by the characters, but in a slightly different manner. The swordsmen aren't bound to any masters, they serve no lords. They fight alongside the farmers to free them from the bandits, the two classes made up of imperfect beings, intermingling for the greater good, an example he wished would happen in post-war Japan. As opposed to the hopeful and aspirational elements of Bushido taken to heart by the ones fighting, we can also see how it can be twisted into a means of manipulation by the ones the samurai are sworn to protect. In 13 Assassins, Lord Naritsugu Matsudaira is known for his cruelty. He plays with the lives of his vassals, amusing himself through their pain, like a child tearing the limbs off of an insect. When his retainers attempt at rebuking him, he parrots back their own rules, handcuffing their resolve and forcing them to bear witness to his heartless ways. Matsudaira's retainers remain loyal and fight honorably until the end, even though their master doesn't see their lives as valuable. In film as in real life, Bushido is a double-edged sword, filled with both virtue and failings. Before we continue, as a Canadian wanting to watch US or international movies, I'm sometimes locked out of some content, and if you wonder how we get around that, then you might be interested in getting a VPN, like the one we use from Surfshark. Not only does it give you access to a lot of geologged content, but most importantly, it protects your information by encrypting all the data that you send through the internet and where you are connecting from. And adding to that peace of mind, even they don't log your information. There are a lot of VPNs out there, but we prefer using Surfshark because it's one of the fastest, well-reviewed, affordable, and offers a lot of features. Not only does it work across all platforms, but you're not limited to the number of devices you can install it on. Use Surfshark Alert. That lets you know if your information appears in a leaked database, or Surfshark Search, to prevent ads or trackers from following your searches. I certainly recommend you check it out on your own by heading to surfshark.deals/screened. If you use our promo code SCREENED, you will get 83% off the regular price, which means that for something like a couple bucks a month, you can be fully protected. Plus, you'll get 3 months for free. Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you try it and you don't like it, you can simply cancel your subscription and get your money back. Now we return to the samurai genre.
Bushi no menboku to wa shosen uwabe dake o kazaru mono to moushitai no ka. Sayo.
Being from a different culture, the samurai always seemed like paragons of virtue that not only act in an honorable way, but look impressive while doing so. Just as some samurai during the Tokugawa era had a tendency to romanticize the times of war, so do we have a tendency to see the samurai code as a more perfect construct than it actually was. One thing is for sure, the system wasn't perfect. Human nature made sure of it. Akira Kurosawa's measured idealism in Seven Samurai gives way to darker realities in his later Jidaigeki. Ran and Throne of Blood depicted some of the aspects of betrayal and ambition involved in wars of succession. Kuroneko's supernatural folktale tells the story of two vengeful spirits that return from the grave to lure and murder lone samurai after they themselves were raped and killed, being innocent peasants. But the example we will settle on is brought to us by Masaki Kobayashi in Harakiri. The title is a more vulgarized way of saying seppuku, which is the original title of the Japanese release. Going deeper into the significance of ritual suicide, it's important to emphasize that it was a very respected way of dying. After the death of a lord, his retainers sometimes followed by committing seppuku. During the actual ceremony, the swordsman would have his shoto, or short sword, before him, and he would then grab it and cut open his belly. In order to prevent agonizing death, there was a designated second, a samurai that would behead the one committing suicide. There came a point where the ritual became considered empty because at the moment the shoto was merely touched, the second performed his duty, without any actual disemboweling. The background and significance of the ritual is the context for the film. Hanshiro Tsugumo arrives before the Yi clan, asking for permission to commit seppuku on their premises. Although they praise the act's nobility publicly, the clan retainers are doubtful of the old man's intentions, because it's become known that many masterless samurai have been coming to different clans, asking for the chance of an honorable death, but in reality, they're looking for a handout and to be sent on their way. Not only does this occurrence lessen the importance of seppuku, but it taints the name of the clans who've been conned. Before Tsugumo's request is entertained, he is told the story of Motome Chijiwa, another Ronin who showed up some time earlier, asking for the same thing, but who ended up being disingenuous in his intentions and was forced to commit ritual suicide. In order to make the conversations impactful, Kobayashi is careful with the gradual revelation of details, and lets our own knowledge or preconceptions of the way of the samurai develop before challenging them. We might be inclined to side with the Yi clan's hesitations when Tsugumo makes his request known. The sanctity of the ritual has to be preserved and protected from becoming empty of meaning. Although Chijiwa's end is brutal, we might even feel that it was deserved for him to be caught in his ploy and obligated to cut himself with a bamboo sword. No real samurai would ever attempt such dishonor, especially without real blades, right? But then, Tsugumo's story slaps the Yi clan across their faces.
Ronin Chijiwa Motome. Isasaga Sessha no zonji yori no mono de atte na.
The one they drove to seppuku was the old man's son-in-law. Instead of mocking the young man's bamboo swords and focusing on the rigidity of their code, why didn't they ask themselves why a samurai would sell his blades? What conditions would drive a man of honor to trade away the symbol of his soul? Or at least grant him the reprieve he asked for? Or even end his suffering sooner? Tsugumo regretted not even thinking of selling his own sword to help save his family. What good is having a sword when there's no one left to protect? That shameful failure alone was enough for him to seek his own death, but he knew that the Yi clan had part of the blame, since they were so hard-set on protecting their own name and reputation. More than the act of seppuku itself, he wanted to expose their hypocrisy. The men Tsugumo asks to designate as his second are at home, hiding in shame under the guise of being ill, because he took their top knots. If they were as by the book regarding their own failure as they were towards Chijiwa, they would have committed seppuku immediately to save face. Only one of the three had the decency to do it. Once the fighting is done and Tsugumo has died, the day's log is written in a fitting and deceitful manner. The clan's reputation is preserved through lies about the causes of death of all the men, including the aging Ronin. When adherence to a creed eclipses empathy and compassion, the ritualistic death becomes as empty as the suit of armor Tsugumo toppled, full of symbolism towards the outside, a facade of honor, but hollow on the inside. Harakiri and ultimately director Kobayashi's intention was to provide some necessary caution to the allure of the myth, that it could be an unrealistic siren call of compliance to a misplaced nationalism, upheld by an authority unable to follow it as well, but all too ready to chastise, emphasizing the danger of blind self-sacrifice towards a collective, be it the feudal system or modern society, that risks leaving the individual and their humanity to be forgotten. There are valuable ideals in the traditions of the past, but holding on to relics without question and without conscience can make us as stubborn and heartless as the Yi clan, unaware that eventually all eras have to end. We really enjoyed making this brief overview of the epic samurai genre. There is still so much to be said about these films, but we hope we managed to pique your interest. If you're new to the genre and don't know where to start, then next week's video will help you out. Next Friday, we will give you a non-spoiler list of samurai movies we recommend you should watch. But if you're already well versed, then let us know down in the comments what are your favorite samurai movies and why. Your comment might be featured in the video. Before you go, make sure to be notified so you don't miss out on any of our videos or community posts. Don't forget to leave a like, share with a friend, and subscribe to the Film Club so it can keep on growing. Today's music was made by Eduardo Gonzalez. If you like his work, you can check his information down in the description. See you next week at the Film Club.